Now, when it comes to actually communicating and sounding like a deer, there's different pieces of the language of the different types of deer, you know, your fawns, your does, and your buck. I want to start out with the fawn. Okay, the fawn is a very simple vocabulary and there's not a whole lot going on with the fawn. So let's just talk a little bit, first of all, of how to do it. Secondly, of what it actually means. So I'm going to slide my call up to the fawn position. Now I'm going to choke it down. I know how to use my call, and the first thing I'm going to do is what we call a locator bleat or a bleat, okay? And you've probably heard that. And all I'm going to do is just go meow, meow. That's kind of the sound that I'm looking for. It's really short. It has a downward sound to it, tone pitch, and we'll talk about what it means after I do a few of them here. Now that's even plenty emotional right there, okay? You can slow it down a little bit, but you got to keep it short and you got to keep that downward tone. Now you notice I spaced that out. If I'm actually calling and using a fawn bleat, what that means is it's just letting its mom know where it is. Now, I learned this by actually watching deer real time. And when I had a fawn at the base of my tree stand, I was sitting on an edge. I knew a doe was close by. And I would listen to that fawn and I heard that pitch and it went meow, meow. And it was really close. And I could hear it was really short and it had that closed downward pitch to it. And before that time, I always thought a fawn bleat was just simple. Now, you know that's a completely different sound than what I did. I actually did. Okay, and before I used to think it was. That's not what we call a locator bleat. And so I actually learned it from the real animal. And all that fawn was doing was letting its mom know that was still in the timber, getting ready to come out, that, hey, I'm over here, mom. That's all that is. It's what we call a locator bleat. It's a bleat. It's a natural thing that they're doing all the time. Turkeys are making noises, they're clucking, they're doing things, they're letting each other know where they are. That's really what it is. That's what it boils down to. So where would I use that? What kind of scenario or how could I use that? Well, one of the things might be is if I'm trying to talk as a group, okay? What I'm trying to do is create the scenario of a bunch of deer coming out into this area and kind of staging up. So imagine, okay, the fawn's gonna come out first early season, then the does are gonna come out, and maybe I'm early season hunting a buck or something like that. Or maybe I'm out to get a doe and just let the deer know, hey, this is where we are, this is where we're coming out to, this is what's happening today. So I might add a few of those little locator fawn bleats. I do a few of them, you know, show the little kids running around possibly and starting to assemble in this open area. And then I might throw a doe bleat in there with the mom saying, hey you guys, I'm over here, just, you know, make sure you're behaving, and letting each other know where they are. That's one reason I might want to use a fawn bleat, okay? And so just think about those situations and think about actually creating the illusion of real, actual deer. What do they do? What's happening? One scenario that you would use these a little bit more would be early season. The earlier, the more talking is going on. I used to think the opposite until I went out and hunted a velvet buck. I think it was Labor Day weekend or somewhere around that time. And we went out and hunted this buck, and I thought, well, there's no reason to even bring a call because deer aren't even really communicating, you know, it's not rut or anything. And it was the exact opposite. They were so vocal that time of the year, it just blew my mind. How much they were interacting and how much they were talking back and forth to each other really, really surprised me. So early season is a good time to utilize the different variations and the different genders of deer coming together as a community, okay? So that's what we call a locator fawn bleat. Now let's get into another part of the fawn. Now think about this, they're kids, okay? If you have children and your child yells, hey mom, mom, and starts screaming or something happens, what happens to you? If you have kids, you know, an instinct just automatically overtakes you. And naturally just, what's going on? You want to know what's going on, you want to check it out. So there's an instinctive parental response that you can get out of what we call a fawn bawl, okay? Now that's now an emotional thing. Imagine the fawns are running around, they're goofing off, they might get in trouble, something bad happened, they're freaked out. Remember, they're just kids, they don't even know what's going on yet. So let's do a little bit of what we call a more emotional response, which would be a bawl or a fawn bawl. And now that's going to have the upward pitch to it because it's emotion being driven into it. And it sounds something like this. Okay, you notice I put a few variations of that bawl, and it's a lot longer. It's not that meow, meow. It's it's not crazy loud. It's not screaming. It's not, you know, the volume is still fairly mellow. It's a low level volume, but naturally that's what it sounds like, okay? And if that mom is close by and I know she's got a fawn and I do that, it'll blow your mind, the instinctive response that you'll get out of that doe. Now there's scenarios that we'll get into down the road where I've learned some things where I can literally, and I've been tracking this, I can take that parental instinct, and if I can visually see a doe that I know is an older doe that should probably have a fawn, I can do those different scenarios with the fawn bawl, and I can put her underneath my tree stand with different types of communication, different type of conversation, and directional calling 6 out of 10 times. I can put that doe right directly under my stand. So keep that in mind, early season for doe hunting. Maybe that's something that you want to do. Or maybe you want to bring that doe to your stand because you see there's a buck out in the area that might want to come over and see what's going on or following the doe. And so those are some of the ways that you'd want to use the fawn bleat and the fawn bawl.